Hey guys, Chris Olka here with another T&E video. This is T&E number 6 for Resilience Oils. Let's jump right in. Matt at Resilience Oils, the founder and head of the company, sent me a couple of samples a couple of months back and asked me what my opinion was on them for use on my tubas. My understanding that he has been going throughout the music industry and soliciting feedback from a number of people and doing some research. And on his website, just to tell you a little bit about the company, it says Resilience Oils is a research and design company focused on lubricants and greases for musical instruments. You should go over to resilienceoils.com and check out his website because it's got a lot of interesting information about the various types of valve oils, whether you're talking about petroleum-based valve oils or hybrid synthetic valve oils, or as Matt is characterizing his valve oils and slide greases, as true synthetic. Again, there is a wealth of information on his website, and if you read it, it makes a lot of sense. And a lot of his argument for kind of why he's gone in the direction that he has in formulating these various types of oils is very compelling. I have to say it parallels or mirrors my experience with all the valve oils out there that started 30 years ago when I was a youngster getting involved in the music business as a musician at Walt Disney World. Back then, just to kind of give you a quick preamble about that, I became a valve oil junkie because the very first piston valve C-tuba that I ever bought from overseas, way back then, had a terrible set of valves on it, and they were always sticking. They were always sticking. They were always sluggish, and I tried every valve oil known to man at that point, which wasn't nearly as many as it is now. And what I ended up coming up with was I would take a 3-in-1 oil and mix it 50-50 with either Holton or Roche Thomas petroleum valve oils, shake it up, and make this kind of emulsion that was really thick and really sticky, viscous, and I would put it on the valves, and they would be really slow for about 5 minutes, and they would break in, and it'd be good for a couple of hours, and then the valves would start sticking after a couple of hours, and I have to take them out, wipe them off, and start all over again. This went on for years. So I literally have a couple of bins full of valve oil in the basement, and I've gone through everything out there, all the synthetics, all the hybrids, all the petroleum-based ones. And, I think that Matt is onto something unique here with these valve oils. His product line is currently kind of small, and he's being very discerning about which direction he goes with the various viscosities and stuff. We'll talk more about that in a second. But there's science behind this, and it's not a bunch of BS. I think he really knows what he's doing. I'll tell you, just a side note, where I've ended up for the last couple of years, it started back in the late 90s with a real famous synthetic valve oil company that everybody knows. This guy makes great product. He makes a huge line of viscosities and application types, greases, oils, gels, you name it. They're fantastic. I've got one gripe with them. Something to do with how they're formulated creates an environment that is just ripe for the accumulation of this yellow slime or sludge inside and on the outside of the instruments, my tubas. Wherever that oil and grease is applied, eventually, over a couple of weeks after application, I get this yellow slime. Now, that may not be a big deal to a lot of people, but it's a big deal to me because I wear 3 or 4 days a week. I wear white concert clothes or light colored concert clothes or dress clothes for recitals and teaching and what have you. And I just got sick of losing countless tuxedo shirts to the yellow stain that I would eventually inevitably get on all of my concert clothes from handling my tubas because of this one particular valve oil. So I switched to another synthetic valve oil, and it was a little bit better. It wasn't nearly they didn't have as many products. It was made overseas. Really great product again. I'm not here to plug them, but I'm still getting some of this yellow weird byproduct. It was a little cleaner. I think it had some kind of detergent additive. But I also had problems with my stainless steel piston valves. And this is key. This is what why I think Matt is onto something. If you look on his website, he talks about the way that he formulated these oils and this grease and the gels that he makes are such that they don't have that problem with creating this environment inside the instrument that reacts with our body chemistry and creates the yellow slime. So that's the first thing. That on itself is very cool. The science behind it you can read about on his website. Like I said, it's compelling. The second thing that he talks about on his website is with the newer instruments, they're using various different types of non-like materials. Most importantly, stainless steel valve, piston valves, and brass, regular, 70-30 alloy brass tubing or valve casings. And that creates a weird interaction between those two dissimilar metals that creates corrosion and eventually leads to deposits and sticky valves and slides if you're using these dissimilar materials. Matt's platform and the research that he's done that led to these oils helps mitigate that, if not eliminate it altogether. And I'll just give you my own personal experience. I took a month off from playing this summer. I took all of my tubas, pulled all the valves out. They were all kind of dirty. I wiped them off with a paper towel, each one of them, and then I thoroughly lubricated all the piston valves and rotors with some of Matt's lighter viscosity oil. I don't think it was one of these, but I used his lightest viscosity oil on all of my valves and all of my tubas, and I put them all on my shelves in the basement, turned the lights off, and took a month break from playing. Every year in the past that I've done this for the now 20 plus years, when I put a horn away for any length of time, I come back and there's the dreaded, you have to kind of break the seal on the valves because they're stuck, they're frozen in place. You push them down, they stay down, you have to pull them up and you have to kind of jiggle them, and eventually, if you're lucky, if it's a higher quality valve oil, you'll get that valve moving again. I grabbed this stuff, put it on my horns, and after a month went downstairs in my basement, and every single one of my valves moved like the day that I put the oil on there. So, that's pretty unscientific, but I'll tell you, it's my personal experience. And when I pulled the valves out, there was no hint of corrosion that I always had in times past. So there's something about how this oil adheres to the valve casing and into the face of the pistons. I've been using it now for a couple of weeks now that I'm back in the saddle playing again. And I'd say my only negative, and it's not a negative so much as I think it's kind of, he's in the process of developing more viscosities. He makes like an F1, a number 2, and a number 3 in the valve oils. Number 1 being light, number 2 being standard, number 3 being heavy. I tried the number 1 on my valves because they're all very tightly machined, very close fitting valves. And the 1 works really good, but it seems to, after after a week or so, it seems to slow down slightly. And I mentioned this to Matt, and he sent me some even lighter viscosities that he's experimenting with developing right now. So I look forward to those going ahead in the next couple of months with his product line. But I'd say my impressions of the number 2 and the number 3, they would be perfect for school horns that have been beat and have not been taken care of, and the valves are sticky or gummy. Wipe them out, or take them out, wipe them off, maybe degrease them with a citrus-based solvent or something like that. And if you've got leaky valves, like an old sousaphone or an old piston valve tuba, use the number 3, and you're probably golden. His number 3, the heavy, is what I wished I had had on that very first tuba that I made, or that I bought all of those years ago, because I'm convinced that stuff would have worked, the valves would have worked, I would have probably had to oil my valves maybe once every couple of days instead of the multiple times a day with my home brew that I made at home to try and solve the problem. So I think there's some interesting possibilities here. He's got a what he calls an F1 kick gel, which I think is going to be kind of a more towards a gel that you would use on first and third valve slides for trumpets. I use it on my first valve slides on my York tubas, and it works great. It lasts for a long time, very smooth and consistent, no drag on it. If you get it, wipe it off, put the oil or the gel on, lasts for a long time. The MTS grease, I'm guessing MTS stands for main tuning slide. It's much thicker, but it stays consistent. I haven't noticed that it's temperature sensitive, and it feels about the same from the first time I put it on. In fact, I haven't even cleaned any of my slides that have the main tuning slide grease on them, and every time I go to move them and dump spit or whatever, it feels like the first day I put it on, and that's been after about 4 weeks now that I've had it on my main tuning slide. If I pull that tuning slide out, dump some spit, put it back in, feels like the first day I put it on there. Again, all this is unscientific. I'm a science geek, but Matt describes all of the research and the thought behind his products far better than I could. So go over to resilienceoils.com and check him out. You can go over to his Facebook page. It's Resilience Oils Facebook page, and check out more information there. He's started distributing around the United States, and it seems like his stuff is being really well received. So I know that there's people out there that will say, oh, you don't need valve oil, you don't need slide grease. You've got a 5-pound tub of lanolin that I use for my valve slides, and I use a 10-gallon jug of lamp oil. Well, that's great. Go ahead and use the lamp oil, and go ahead and use the lanolin. There's nothing wrong with that stuff. But I think that there is some benefit to be had by using synthetic stuff that's purposefully designed for our application in the music industry. I don't think that they're inordinately expensive. His prices are falling right in line with all the other competitors, and it's a big field. And the research behind trying to mitigate the electrostatic and various other types of reactions between dissimilar metals, specifically for us tuba players that have a whole new wave of instruments made with stainless steel piston valves, it's a big deal. I think it's potentially a game changer. Hope he has a bright future. I wish him all the best. Give him a try. It's Resilience Oils. I hope that helps you guys. I'm trying to keep it short, so we're just under 13 minutes. If you don't already like my channel, it's Chris Olka on YouTube, go ahead and like it and subscribe, and hopefully you get updates when I do more of these. Thanks for all the support for the channel. Hope you guys are well. Take care. See ya.